right, my friends, as we await the Montreal Canadiens playoff berth in 2026, we have ourselves some trade rumors to dive into as well that question the future of some of the members of this team and that actually debate whether or not they could be seen as valuable in the first place. Let's head over onto Spectre's Hockey from yesterday, April 6th, 2026, because Lyle Richardson went out there and compiled some of the latest in regards to Montreal Canadiens trade talk. We're going to be talking about the Sheriff. We're talking about a guy in net. We're talking about the future, and we're talking about what the Canadiens could get. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave a link in the description to this article if you want to go ahead and read it yourself. Let's scroll past the Mark Stone injury update and whether or not this guy is going to be a Pietrangelo 2 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Take a look at this. On the Montreal Gazette, a recent mailbag segment saw Stu Cowan get asked about the future of Canadiens defenseman Arber Xhekaj. The 25-year-old Xhekaj has seen a reduction in his playing time over the past 2 seasons. He is an RFA this summer and could end up as the odd man out on the Canadiens' blue line, especially with promising youngsters David Reinbacher and Adam Engstrom waiting in the wings. Cowan believes there will be interest in the 6'4", 240-pound Xhekaj with his mix of size, his mobility, and his toughness on the trade market. He could fetch a bigger return than Jayden Struble. Now, that's a pretty good starting point, I would say, when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. Arber Xhekaj is a guy whose long-term future with the team had started to become a lot more questionable over the past few years. You see, when the Canadiens initially signed Xhekaj straight out of the OHL, and he ended up showing off very well in that prospect tournament that we had seen a few years ago, we understandably saw some really excited Canadiens fans looking at Xhekaj and saying, yeah, this guy is an NHL caliber defenseman that the Canadiens signed out of nowhere. He didn't even need AHL time. He made the team right away. And to be fair, you could totally say that the Montreal Canadiens in this era were not really all too great either. They had just made the finals, they just lost the finals, and then they were drafting first overall the very next year. So it was a young team, they were transitioning. Arber Xhekaj had 51 games in his first season, 44 in his next, and then 70 games last year. This season, however, whilst avoiding the AHL playing time, Arber Xhekaj has suited up in a number of games, not as much as before, but he is consistently being treated as a healthy scratch, and you could very well say that with the addition of Noah Dobson, with Lane Hudson signing long-term, with Mike Matheson in the fold, with Caden Gooley there, and with Reinbacher and Engstrom, it becomes increasingly difficult to see Arber Xhekaj as a guy who fits long-term with the Canadiens. Might I remind you, there was a sample this season amongst these 60 games that he did play where he was playing as a winger. This is just not a guy that the Habs can potentially project as a long-term defenseman on the roster. Never mind Jayden Struble, never mind Alexandre Carrier. Arber Xhekaj at 25 years old is just not a projectable fit. However, we totally understand why a guy like Arber Xhekaj would be valued in trade talks in the first place. He is a big dude. He is a tough dude. He is the sheriff. He polices the game. And if you want to go out there and defend yourselves against the Ryan Reeveses of the world, the Tkachuks of the world, the David Perrons, you get yourselves an Arber Xhekaj because he helps out in that department. I'm honestly still subscribing to the idea that Arber Xhekaj should play with Florian Xhekaj and maybe Josh Anderson or whomever else on the fourth line of the Canadiens long term, because having both Xhekaj brothers on a wing combo would be totally awesome. With that said, we do have ourselves some discussion as to whether or not he could be traded. Spector's note says here that Cowan admitted the Canadiens would miss Xhekaj's physical style of play. But he doesn't think there's room for Xhekaj on what's becoming a crowded blue line. Xhekaj could fetch a decent draft pick or a prospect, or end up packaged in a larger deal this summer. Yeah, I'd say that that's pretty fair. It's not like Xhekaj is going to go for the moon and the stars, even though he is a very valuable piece. This is one of these players where his value only comes up every once in a while. You're not going to see consistent 82 games worth of extreme physical value from Arber Xhekaj, but you do get yourselves a few glimpses here and there. There might be 2 weeks where Arber Xhekaj goes without actually being super significant when he's actually playing. But in that one odd game where everything is going crazy and it's just total mayhem, that's when you want Xhekaj on the ice to police it. That's where this guy's value comes in. It's not because he's a productive scorer. I mean, this season he's got 3 points. Last year he had 6. But at the end of the day, Xhekaj, still a pretty valuable asset, I would say, even if on paper he doesn't bring much. Let's head over onto this right here. Canadiens goaltender Samuel Montembeault could also draw some trade interest in this summer's market. He has a year left in his contract with an AAV of $3.15 million. Cowan noted that the number of teams having goaltending issues this season shouldn't make it difficult for the Canadiens to find a trade partner for Montembeault this summer. Monty, a guy who unfortunately just got outplayed this season. It is no longer his crease. It is the next generation of Canadiens goaltending time here. Jakub Dobeš, Jacob Fowler, these guys are the future. Montembeault, he's 29 years old. He was a waiver pickup from Florida all these years ago, back in 2021. And for the most part, we would all say that Sammy Montembeault displayed some pretty good progression as a starting option for the Montreal Canadiens. He was there when nobody else was, and he was able to take this team into the playoffs last season. Might I remind you, Sammy Montembeault had a .908 save percentage in those 3 playoff games and a .902 in 62 games in the regular season. That's legitimately good, especially in today's NHL. This season, though, Monty has an .872 in 25 games played. That sucks, bro. I'm sorry. Montembeault has not been good this season, and that is actually discussed here as well by Lyle Richardson on Spector's note. Montembeault has not been the same since tearing 2 groin muscles in last year's playoffs. He has lost his role as the Canadian starter and now sits behind Dobeš and Fowler on their goalie depth chart. Nevertheless, the goaltending issues around the NHL that Cowan mentioned could make Montembeault a trade target. His contract is reasonable, he lacks no trade protection, and he might rebound with a different team in need of goaltending depth. I would say that's contingent on said team actually having reasonable defense in front of him. I'm thinking about it like this. If Sammy Montembeault goes to a team like Vancouver, for example, Kevin Lankinen is injured, so there's a need for an extra goalie with the Canucks. Thatcher Demko is never going to be healthy again, so that doubles down the team's need to acquire a goalie. If Sammy Montembeault is playing behind Vancouver, for example, his numbers are going to get even worse. You think an .872 is bad? This guy could be approaching .830 territory if he's on Vancouver. So I would say that a certain level of success for Montembeault is not just going to depend on him bouncing back personally, but it's also going to depend on the team in front of him. Montreal is a significantly better defensive team than some of these other options around the NHL that do have goaltending struggles. So Sammy Montembeault is not going to get any easier for him heading into the next few years. At the very least, his contract's okay. $3.15 million till the end of 2027 is fine. So maybe there's a target here for another team that does need a goaltender, but they just have to question whether or not Montembeault can be their fit. Are they looking for a guy to save them, or are they looking for a guy who can bounce back and who can strive in a certain kind of defensive system? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these trade updates for Arber Xhekaj and Sammy Montembeault, how 1 or 2 or none could be on the move this summer for the Montreal Canadiens. Who do you think gets traded? Where do you think they get traded to? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.